Veritas. SCP Files. Episode 85. Reek. Incident Report 6929-1. First known incident report involving SCP-6929. No colloquial name on file. Object class: safe. Risk assessment level: low. Reported by D7490. Real name: Maggie Kim. Report made December 18th, 2018. I've been instructed to write this report. They put a pen in my hand, sat me at an old desk in an empty, cold room, and told me to put it all down in as much detail as I can recall, as though I don't remember every second of that ordeal. I don't know who plans on reading it. It doesn't seem like a very pleasant thing to get through. But I imagine it's some poor prisoner's job, somewhere. They do like giving us the most unpleasant of tasks. Regardless of who ends up with this, there's only one thing I really want you to know. I can't smell anymore. And I am so grateful for that. I can still see. Somehow, in the mad scramble of tearing and disfigurement, my eyes were spared. I'm grateful for that, too. When I touch the fresh bandages on my face, I can feel the uneven lump of pitted flesh where my nose used to be. The middle of my face is gone, scraped almost down to the bone. Even my upper lip is missing. It hurts, of course, but what's far stranger is the absence. Where the world used to be full of scent, there's nothing. I don't smell my blood. I don't smell the dust layering this room, or the sharp sting of the cleaning chemicals they scrub with in the hallways. You don't realize how much of the world comes in through your nose until it simply doesn't anymore. Losing it leaves behind a hollow space in more than one way. An entire sense simply gone. And I keep wondering what that makes me now. If this means I'm a liability. If this means I'm no longer useful to the Foundation anymore. We all know what happens to D-Class personnel who aren't useful. Well, we don't actually know. And that's kind of the point. It's not my fault. They lied to me. I know I wasn't given a choice in any of this anyway. But the fact that they still felt the need to lie, that stings. It was framed as nothing more than a simple exposure to a mildly anomalous perfume bottle. Just one puff every so often. All I had to do was describe how it made me feel, and what, if anything, it made me think of. That was it. It wasn't scary. It wasn't even uncomfortable. I've been made to do far worse things here, with far less explanation. This felt controlled. They had set aside a small testing chamber with a standard plastic chair, and a tiny wooden table with the bottle placed neatly at its center. I was to spray myself once, make a short report, and then it was back to my cell. The first test took place on June 9th. The smell was pleasant, papery, very faint and very clean. And the emotions were even better. Freedom, relief, joy, excitement. There was a little anxiety mixed in, but it was the good kind, the breathless, excited kind. I described it as clearly as I could. They thanked me, and that was that. The next test didn't come for a whole month, and I can't tell you how nice that break was. I was assigned janitorial duty in the interim, and I was relieved, truly relieved, to be away from testing entirely. All that freedom and relief, all for just a little puff of perfume. When they finally called me back on July 7th, the second smell was even nicer. Barbecue. It was a warm smell, familiar and comforting. And the emotions again were of enjoyment, fun, bonding. And then something else. Attraction. I felt myself blush, sudden and foolish. And for a brief moment a set of images flickered through my mind. A garden, a cookout, laughter and idle chatter. A young man with a dazzling smile. It felt like a memory, but it didn't feel like mine. And then, just like that, it was gone. Still, I carried that warmth with me for days afterward. 2 full days, in fact, before they called me back again. I asked why this time was different, why it had been a month before, and now only 2 days. I was told, gently, that this was simply how the anomaly worked. Certain odors on certain dates. It was nothing to worry about. And with a smell as pleasant as cinnamon, why would I worry? I felt happy. Deeply, purely happy. More attached than before. Infatuated, even. Though with who, I couldn't say. That same face drifted through my thoughts again, just out of focus. The same smile, the same eyes. I caught myself scanning the faces around me afterwards. The guards, the researchers, the other D classes, always looking for him. But alas, he was only in those given memories. I was very excited for the 4th test. The smell was caramel and cinnamon, warm and sweet. And the memories came more clearly this time, lasting longer, coalescing together into something almost touchable. I was sitting in a coffee shop. He sat across from me. We split something between us, a pastry maybe, our hands brushing as we did. I felt it then, the fluttering rush of new affection, bright and breathless. And then the memory slipped away. The next few tests blurred together. Roast chicken, ice cream, flowers. Each one brought flashes of that same other life, the same person just out of reach. The emotions surged again and again as the days slid towards August. Attachment, longing, anticipation, the feelings lingering long into each day. Then came August 4th. I was called into the testing room only a day after the last high, already bracing myself for joy. The smell was flowers and cinnamon, lovely, sweet and familiar. And at first, it worked the way it always had. That swell of affection rushed through me, sharp and fulfilling. Images flooded my mind as the scent filled my lungs. He was holding her, holding my hands. He was speaking. I couldn't hear the words, only smell the flowers he had placed in my lap. I remember thinking, distantly, that this was it. This was all I ever wanted. And then something changed. The shock hit first, sudden and violent. I recoiled in the memory, my body jerking back in the chair as though I'd been struck. Whatever he'd said, whatever this other person whose footsteps I followed had just heard or understood, it twisted my stomach hard enough to wrench away my breath. For a moment, there was only the smell, thick, cloying, and utterly overwhelming. And then the sadness came. It crashed over me again and again, wave after wave, no relief, no breaks, until I was shaking on the floor, gasping, my face wet with tears I couldn't stop. I don't remember falling from the chair. I only remember the grief, heavy, endless, and suffocating. They had to drag me back to my room, and the next day, they dragged me back again. I didn't want to go. The sweet floral scent still clung to my clothes, and every time I caught it, that same crushing mourning surged through me. Betrayal and loss and hopelessness. I begged the researchers behind the one-way glass to tell me if this was normal. They told me it was within parameters, and that I was to continue the test. My hands were shaking when I lifted the perfume bottle again. I tried to steady myself, to breathe, to remember what they had told me, that the feelings weren't mine, that the memories weren't real, that I would be fine once it passed. It was all temporary, all false. And besides, maybe August 4th had simply been a fluke. Maybe the good memories were still there, just waiting to come back. I held on to that thin, distant hope as I sprayed the perfume again. The smell of fried broccoli hit me immediately, and with it came the same crushing despair, heavy and airless. It settled over me like a weight I couldn't shift. I don't remember much of that test beyond the sadness, rolling over me like a tidal wave. I think they dragged me back to my cell afterward. I think I slept. When I woke, and for days after, I tried to scrub the smell from my skin. It wouldn't come off. I scrubbed and scrubbed until my skin was raw and red, but still the scent and those heavy feelings of pain and loss, they lingered, never leaving me completely. I pressed the damp cloth over my face, trying to block out the scent, and still I couldn't stop it. I was still shaking when they came for me again on the 9th. They found me curled in on myself in the corner of my room, arms locked tight across my chest, barely able to stand. Once they had dragged me into the room, I took the bottle and couldn't. I just couldn't. The thought of what would happen next, what awful, crushing pain awaited me. I stared at it for a long time. Eventually, that same guard took the bottle from my hand. I didn't protest. I don't think I could have lifted my arm to stop him. The smell was coffee. It should have been comforting, familiar. Instead, it detonated something inside me. The rage came fast and total, flooding every thought before I could brace against it. In the memory, I grabbed the coffee pot. In the room, my hands closed around the guard's arm. I swung without thinking, without choosing, my body moving on its own, fueled by this immense, uncontrollable rage. A sound tore out of my throat, raw, animalistic, and unrecognizable. That couldn't have been me. The guard dodged easily. The butt of his rifle slammed into the side of my face, and my vision burst into stars. I hit the floor hard, gasping, the rage still screaming inside me, even as my body failed. I lay there, staring at the tile, feeling the blood trickle from the gash in my forehead, and watched a drop of red splash onto the tiled floor. In my false memories, the red was everywhere. It was the next day. The next day. The 10th. The anger hadn't left me. It sat in my body, coursing through every vein, endless and insistent. I paced my cell incessantly, my head throbbing and my thoughts aflame. I slammed my fists into the stone wall, again and again, until the skin split over my knuckles, and my own walls were as red as the ones in my false memory. Once, I kicked the bed frame. The shock of pain shooting up my leg nearly dropped me. I couldn't afford to do that again. I needed to keep moving, keep pacing. Movement was the only thing that kept the rage from tearing me apart. When they came for me, I fought them. It didn't matter. Moments later, I was back in that chamber, my arms pinned by 2 guards, while a third stepped forward with the bottle. I twisted hard enough that I thought my shoulder would rip from its socket. I wanted to shatter 6929. I wanted to smash the glass and destroy that horrible thing forever. But they held me firmly. The first spritz smelled of cinnamon. The rage was still there, hot and immediate. But beneath it, something worse spread through me, thick and heavy. Denial. The memory came fast, far more vivid than anything previously. I was standing in a kitchen I didn't recognize, but somehow knew. Flour dusted every countertop. My hands moved mechanically, scooping, measuring, stirring, following steps with rote dedication. The air was thick with the smell of home baking, cinnamon and vanilla and warmth. In my mind, she focused on the recipe, on the steps that made so much sense. She needed to keep our hands busy. I didn't think about the other room. I didn't think about how complicated it had all become. I didn't think about the acrid tang of that other scent beneath the cinnamon. But it kept creeping in anyway. Even under the cloud of sweetness was a foul bitterness, a wrongness, a truth that insisted upon itself no matter how badly I tried to avoid it. Back in the chamber, my stomach lurched. In the memory, I bent over the sink as the realization finally broke through. I retched. The sweetness evaporated with the taste of bile, and it sprayed out of me in my mind, in the chamber, everywhere. They hadn't even finished with the perfume yet. How long had it been? 3 minutes? 4? I was still choking and gasping for air when I felt them close in again. The smell of cinnamon and vomit flooded the chamber anew, and with it came the guilt. It was sharp and heavy, coursing through every fiber of my being. What had we done? What had I done? There was no escaping it now. There would never be absolution or forgiveness. The scent clung to me. It was inside me. They were going to keep me here like this, replaying it, reliving it, walking me through these awful moments, this story that never belonged to me but was becoming a part of me now. I didn't want to see how it ended. I didn't want to see it, to live it. I knew that whatever came next was going to break me completely. I couldn't get away. There was no escape from the guards, or the chamber, or the bottle. No escape from the memories. Those awful memories. And they weren't mine. They weren't me. But there was one thing left I could do. There was one thing they might not foresee. If I could just get rid of the place where the smell entered me, then it would stop. It had to. The clawing was agony. but it was nothing compared to the guilt crushing the last remnants of me into nothingness. It was nothing compared to the certainty that if I didn't do this now, I would never again be free. They tried to spray me again. I barely registered it. The faintest hint of soil brushed the edges of my awareness. There was a flash of images. I saw a shovel, a mound of dirt, my hands pressing something down into a hole, trying to hide what I'd done. And then it stopped. I didn't. The guards didn't try to hold me down this time. With every piece I scraped away, every spike of white-hot pain, something else disappeared too. The memories thinned and fragmented. The emotions loosened their grip. The pressure began to drain away. Then, suddenly, nothing. No smells, no feelings, no weight. It all just stopped. My hands fell away from my face, slick and shaking, and I smiled up at the guards through the red haze over my vision. Relief tore through me, freeing and light, even as the pain coursed through my face. Alarms blared somewhere nearby. There were voices shouting. I felt hands lifting me, dragging me away from the chamber, and the bottle, and the smells, and the story. And then, everything went dark. I've been in recovery for a while now. I can't smell anything. Not even a trace. When I look in the mirror, the face staring back at me isn't the one I remember. Even my voice sounds different when I speak. Thicker somehow. Like there's some sort of obstruction getting in its way. The other D classes don't look at me anymore. The guards try not to either. I haven't been selected for anything since the incident, even though the wounds have mostly healed. I don't think the researchers like picturing my face when they hand out assignments. I don't mind that part. I never want to smell again. And if I'm being honest, I'm grateful to be done with testing altogether. They did finally explain it to me, you see. The reason for the experiment. They knew fragments of the story already, from testing over the past year. But they never had anyone live through the entire sequence. Never had one subject piece it together day by day. They just wanted to know. The longer I stay here in the medical bay, the more at peace I feel with how it all ended. I may be missing physical pieces of myself now, but I kept the parts that mattered. My thoughts, my memories, my sense of who I am. I've learned that those are far more valuable. Still, I can't help but wonder what happens next. What they'll do with me when someone can finally stomach looking at me long enough to reassign me. I don't know if I'm still useful to the Foundation like this. And if I'm not, I hope the story ends here. I hope it ends quickly, quietly. I don't want to help again. Don't put me back. Don't bring me anywhere new. Just finish the story without me. Okay, Dr. Sterling. I've finished today's report. If you unlock the door, I'd like to go back to my room now.
Not just yet. There's someone coming to see you. Sit tight.
Vault Veritas SCP Files is a podcast inspired by the SCP Foundation. Reek is based on SCP-6929 by Ekronek from the SCP Wiki located at scpwiki.com/SCP-6929. It is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike 3.0 unported license. This episode featured Justin Kellner as Scott Anderson and Mintaka Angel as Miranda Sterling. It was written and edited by Leola Angel. We welcome comments. Please rate and review us, email us at vaultveritas@gmail.com, or join our Discord channel using the link in the episode description. Thanks for listening.